Hi guys, we're going to get started. Yay! So next up we've got Katie McLaughlin. Katie is a senior systems engineer working to automate all the things. When she's not changing the world, she enjoys making tapestries, cooking, and yelling at JavaScript and its attempt at global variables. Put your hands together for Katie McLaughlin.
G'day. So this is a double room and I'm not exactly sure where to stand because not everyone's going to be able to see me anyway. Is the camera okay? Everywhere? Okay. Cool. Thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Katie. I've hidden my Twitter ID on this slide. I'm not sure whether you will be able to find it. So, hi, I do computer things. A lot of different computer things, and it's really great because even though I'm at a Python conference, everyone's been really nice to me because obviously I identify as a diversity member, you know, being a Ruby developer. And if I keep this slide up for long enough, A, YouTube might get really confused with the title slide, and B, people walking into this room will get really confused. But no, I do a lot of stuff that's not Ruby. I do a whole lot of system administration stuff. And I have actually worked on Docker and OpenStack things. Docker's actually paid me money to fix things, and that's cool. And I'm also a OpenStack ATC, because all you have to do to get a active technical contributor title is just get one commit accepted upstream. Would you like to know what I got accepted upstream? That. The fact that there was documentation, in the Nova Python client that said that a get volumes actually deleted things that had been in there since 2011. Yeah, people need to read their comments because they're kind of important. As an aside, if you were to actually do this, OpenStack will give you a free ticket to attend the next awesome summit that they have. And the next one is going to be Tokyo, and apparently it's going to be really cool. And if there's any OpenStacky sprint stuff happening, then you should totally get involved, because OpenStack's awesome. Isn't it? People in the room that should raise their hands if they are an ATC or higher in OpenStack. There's one, two. See? These people are helping with open source contributions and everything's awesome. But how do we actually know this apart from me heckling from the stage and making people raise their hands? You could use GitHub and look at what people have committed on GitHub, except that's not really all that good, and I will get back to GitHub later. In the OpenStack world, you can use Stack Analytics, which does some really nice graphs and everything, including for documentation, because documentation is really important. But in the OpenStack world, documentation is a first-class citizen, and every bit of documentation is in its own Git repo, so everything has nice statistics and commits and all that kind of fun stuff. You also had this really awesome thing called the open source report card, because GitHub used to show data based on the language of what you committed, so you can see, I'm doing all Python and a little bit of C because my boss hates me. Unfortunately, the GitHub repo, the GitHub API for repo has changed and does not expose that information anymore, so that really doesn't work. But what about everything else? So, straw poll. Who here has ever gone to a local meetup in their city or another city? Who here has ever helped out organising one of these meetups? Who here has ever been to a conference about a programming language? If your hand's not up now, just by being here, you are contributing. You might just be listening, but in physics, every single system where you have an interaction, there is always going to be some sort of effect on the system. Even just observing it has an effect. And just by being here, you're having an effect. So everyone should clap their hands. Science! So, apart from me raising hands and making everyone clap, how can we actually actively acknowledge and respect all that stuff that we do that's not code? There's this really wonderful person, Leslie Hawthorne. How many of you know Leslie? Okay, for those of you who don't know Leslie, she is an amazing human being. She has organised hundreds of meetups, does some brilliant community management work. She's awesome, and everyone should try to be just like her and make everyone happy and feel better. What she did was she did a little tiny blog post called Let's All Build Hat Racks. There's a hashtag, and if I don't see at least 10 new things on that hashtag by the end of this talk, I'm not going to leave the stage. No. So there's a link to the blog post. If you don't actually listen to me, just go read it. But what she's done is she's made a really nice manual of how we can acknowledge non-code contributions in open source, which I've turned into a little talk about hat racks. And don't worry about the name of the IKEA item, it's just a bad pun. No, it's actually bad pun in Swedish, for anyone that reads Swedish. So, 5 simple steps. But first I have to tell a story, because this all happened at LCA 2015 last year, where Leslie had a wonderful conversation with a really nice lady called Deb Nicholson, who's involved with the Open Innovation Network, which does a whole lot of shared patent stuff, so I won't sue you, you won't sue me. Some really nice things, and neither of them really identify as programmers, so neither of them really have a way of showing what they do in the community. They're both involved in a Sahara Innovation Board, and Deb said, this is really great. I actually have something that I can put on my LinkedIn, and it's a really nice place to hang my hat. And Leslie just went, wow, I'm going to take this and run with it. So what she's done is she created this blog post and a hashtag, and it's gotten quite a bit of traction all around the world about ways that we can actually help acknowledge what people are doing in the community. So 5 simple steps. Write a list. Dot points, pros, doesn't matter what it has to be. Write a list about someone else and how awesome they are, and send it to them. That's it. That's all she wanted you to do. Except, of course, there's extra bonus points. If you put it on Twitter or on LinkedIn, then other people will be able to see it as well, using the hashtag or recommendations on LinkedIn. Plus, for the extra gravy, as she puts it, do it for someone not like you. So if you're a developer, acknowledge the fact that your testing person puts in a lot of hours and does a whole lot of really nice things for you. Your designers, your writers, anyone who works on your projects that doesn't actually do code. And everyone's great. This thing got so much traction. She was getting all these floods of tweets, and it's been going around, and it's been really awesome. Except that it hasn't really been it hasn't been as good as what it could be, because I think some people really didn't understand how to be nice to people. And that's a really bad thing to say. But I've been doing a lightning talk around a couple of places now where I just do the 5 things and then I'll get 1 response. So PyCon were awesome enough to give me half an hour to describe how you actually be nice to people. And this is it. So I'm going to tell you exactly how to be nice to people, and I'm the person that you ring up. And yes, lots of IKEA iconography in this. Creative Commons something, please don't sue me. So, first of all, on Twitter, you write something nice about someone and you use the hashtag. So, there's this really nice person in the audience called Chris, who you may have seen. He's right there. I have a laser pointer, I can point him out. So what Chris has done with the t-shirts that everyone got is not only are there unisex cuts and female cuts, it's actually a secondary female cut of t-shirts. There are 3 different types of t-shirts, and they come in all these different colours, and that's really nice. So someone tweeted him about it, and Chris really didn't understand what was going on. Because if someone compliments you on Twitter, that's weird, apparently. So I had to go in and actually clarify the fact that we think you are awesome. And I actually got an entire room of people clapping, and I can do it again. Go on, clap. Because Chris is bloody awesome. And I can say bloody because it's PG-13 rated word. But yes, and apparently this was nicely accepted, and I got a smiley face back, so it's like, yay. So yeah, that's as easy as it is. Just be nice. It's really not that hard. Speaking of being nice, LinkedIn. I'm not endorsing LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn serves a purpose, but I think it is a little bit awful. Unfortunately, it is sort of the it is the sort of standard now, not in just in IT, but across all different sectors as a online resume and social media thing. Just don't write pulse things, it's awful. But what you can do on LinkedIn is you can write endorsements. Sorry, you can click the little buttons that endorse people and have a little counter that goes up, but you can also write recommendations, which is their pros. And these things are really good, except for the fact that the person getting the thanks needs to actually put down what they do. Now, these are the different categories you can put down there, the main ones being the experience and the education. But there's all these other ones there. LinkedIn will not let you LinkedIn will not let you recommend someone unless it is listed as experience or education. So all this other stuff about volunteering and everything else, you can't actually recommend someone for. So you've only got these two. But if you want to put down, say, I ran Kiwi PyCon, or I do a whole lot of stuff with Python, you really have to put that under experience. But that's the good thing. This is experience. It's not volunteering, it's experience, it's real world stuff. It's just as important as having to write Java for a day job, because you're helping the community. So if somebody asks you, Tom, if they can actually recommend you, then you actually have to put on the fact that you directed an entire bloody conference on LinkedIn, and then people can say thank you. Because this guy ran an entire conference and I didn't even know, and I've known him for years. So I think everyone needs another clap, because I like being nice. So yes. Oh, and on the skills and endorsements thing, according to that, I know Python, which is wrong. But then again, no one's actually endorsed me for table flipping yet. Fun fact, if you add your own things, they're all freeform, but you cannot add them to other people's stuff. So you can endorse me for table flipping, but I can't make you have random things like knowing things that aren't in their proper list. And I don't like LinkedIn, but it's a system, it's awful. Creepy, yes, creepy is a good word for it. I'm not even going to touch Facebook on this, but I'm going to get back to GitHub, because GitHub kind of does things okay. I mean, that's my profile, and there's this wonderful little green chart, and my wonderful little green chart says that I do a whole lot of commits, but then there's a private chart that you can't see, that only I can see. So if I click between them, you can see the fact that I'm doing a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes that you'd never know about, because they're all in private repos. On top of that, there's this little conditional thing that no one actually clicks to say what actually goes into that graph. So, what actually counts on the graph? It's actually really weird, because it's all your commits, issues, and pull requests in the last year. But that makes sense, because it's a statically defined with 12 months. But it's only commits that go into master or GitHub pages. So GitHub pages is the documentation side where all your Jekyll things go. So that kind of makes sense. But it's only issues that you've opened or pull requests that you've opened. And your GitHub email has to match your Git author email, because that's how they match it up behind the scenes. Plus, you either have to own the repo, you have to be a collaborator, you have to be part of the owner organization, you have to have forked it, opened an issue, opened a pull request, or starred the repo. So in order for your issue to be accepted, you have to have opened the issue, or you've had to have starred the repo and opened an issue. It's like the Venn diagram of this thing I didn't even want to try to document, but only a little bit counts of what you actually do that gets in that little graph. But it's just too hard. How can you make that graph actually reflect what you're doing? It's okay, because there's a hack for that, because all you have to do is just pip install Rockstar, and what that will do, it's for as many days as you have, it will create a hello world in C++, backdated for how many days, and then you get a nice full graph. And the documentation for this is awesome, because they have some tweets from Life at Google saying, oh wow, you know C++, we will hire you. because of the fact that in Git you can backdate commits and you can just commit things into dodgy repos and then you can just fill the graph. But you don't even have to do it on your graph. You can just use things like this, which dynamically generates whatever you want, and then you can spell out cool words. And GitHub have never ever endorsed this system or made any money based on the fact that you can change the graphs, because that t-shirt is something they used to sell and it says GitHub. So, that's for you as a person, but what about your projects? So some people might recognize this project. It's on GitHub. Most of the interactions go through GitHub, so it's a really good source of information that I can look at. So it says that there are 350 contributors to this repo. Except when you click that, it only shows 100 of them. And it shows them based on their frequency and stuff, and that's kind of cool. There's graphs and stuff, but it's just, you said 350 on one slide, and now it's 100. Where did everyone else go? So what about all the issues that were raised against requests? What about all the unmerged pull requests? What about all the comments, the code reviews? Anything that's not actually a commit, that's in master, against the repo, if they're not part of the organization, all those other things I listed, what about all of them? Can we get this information out of GitHub? They have an API. About a week ago, I thought, yeah, this can't be too hard. So I made a thing in Python. And you can actually install it via pip, which is really cool because I don't do Python. And I made a thing, and it's on PyPy, and it's cool. So what you can do is you can pip install Octohat. So because they got the Octocat, it's Octohat because hat racks, and I thought it was a cool name and no one else had used it. So what you can do is you can get this thing to crawl through the API and work out how many code contributors there are. And that's just based on who's actually got master commits. But then it goes through every single issue, every single pull request, and all the code comments, and works out who of those people haven't also got commits. And it turns out there's 1,200 of these people who have interacted, given code reviews, logged issues, raised PRs that haven't been merged, all these other interactions, and they have absolutely no acknowledgement. And this is the kind of thing, if you run a project on GitHub, run this tool, it'll output actually a whole list of all the people, and these are the people that you should be thanking. You should be trying to get them involved more. They've probably logged issues or done code reviews, so they might actually be able to contribute code. And this is a really good way to get all those people acknowledged, identified, and try to bring them into your community more, because at the moment they're getting absolutely nothing. And as a bit of a meta, I actually checked how many people have actually commented on the Rockstar stuff. When I originally ran this, it was about 1 code contributor and 30-odd non-code contributors, but that's because they were mostly cat GIFs. Unfortunately, there's no natural language processing or anything behind there. However, +1s to an issue do actually count for something, so I'm just leaving it alone for now. And if I want to go really meta, the actual code for this itself has got 1 code contributor, me, and 1 non-code contributor, which is Nick, who actually helped me out with the packaging side of it. So now it's actually on pip. So another round of applause for people being awesome. And because I'm really, really, really meta, here's a list of all the non-code contributors to my non-code contributor talk. All these people have been completely influential and awesome and all the things, and how much time do I have left? Can I go through each of them and make them really embarrassed? 10 minutes. I can take 10 minutes worth of questions, or I can go through exactly why all these people are awesome. Or what I can do is I can stand here and wait until I get at least 10 hashtags on that thing. There's nothing wrong with being nice. Thank people, be awesome, Twitter's not for rage, all the things. And thank you. My goodness, the first question being from Russell.
Oh, what a surprise.
My goodness. Hello.
Hello. Okay, so great talk. Thank you very much. And I suppose the question I've got is about what acknowledgement actually means. Back in the early days of Django, we were on Subversion, and one of the things that really impressed me as a project, and we adopted basically, systematically everything was done, is that Subversion, it was the core committers who were committing, and the commits were all under their names. But if the patch came from someone, we would say thanks to John Smith for the patch, or thanks to Jane, whatever. And that was a really small thing, but it felt really great to me when I received that from the core contributors, and then I became a core contributor and started passing it on to whoever made the change. We've moved to Git, and we've kind of lost that because, it's just in the Git log. You can find out who contributed it because it's just merging from the Git log. But it's not as visible. It's not like in your face if you're watching the commits. And even then, even if it was just in the SVN log, it wasn't like up on a website somewhere where you could point and say, hey, look at this. What does acknowledgement look like beyond a hashtag and a tweet?
Well, that's the thing, because I've actually, for starters, the fact that you were able to be coerced from a thank you into a core contributor is actually really cool. And that's the kind of upscaling process that they were probably after, because it's like, hey, you did a thing, would you like to do more things? I believe the term is getting voluntold. But I've been involved in open source things where I've had to add myself to the changelog and actually have a link to my thing, so all the changes that would come in the next release were listed. There's also contributing, I believe, is like the, it automatically gets linked when you try to do a pull request in GitHub, that there are guidelines for contributing, but there's also contributors, all in caps. But apart from that, there's really no computer mechanism, so even just a thing like emailing people, like if people talk at your meetups, you should thank them, because it's really hard to be on stage. And it's really nice when you get emails from people saying, hey, you're awesome, do you want to do another talk? Because it's this whole coercion thing. But I really don't have an answer for that, apart from there's nothing wrong with being nice to people, but I mean...
anything's better than nothing.
Anything is better than nothing. And I mean, I've got this little thing where I could actually go, I want to thank the Academy for all these people that have helped me be here, and my mum, and I could do that, but I'm not going to, much. But it's just, it may be tacky, it may be a bit weird, but it's like, why does it have to be weird to thank someone? And I don't really have an answer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
But, yay.
Okay. Thank you very much, and you're awesome as well. Thank you very much for giving the talk.
So we've still got a bit of time for questions, and we're up to 8 Twitter posts on that hashtag.
I need 2 more posts, please. Wait, are they posts or actually nice things, or people trolling on the... Oh, yay!
Thank you for this talk. I've been following the Debian project for some time, and there's been a conversation about how there could only be developers. They're called developers who are, some of them develop software for Debian, some of them package it. But how the developer give you, the developer side will give you the vote, and there were many people who could work but weren't technical and didn't have the vote. And that's been a discussion that it has been advanced to give the vote to people who aren't technical enough to actually package things and put them in the main repos for everything to download. I'd like, you probably know, which other projects are taking the same steps to give in citizenship rights to vote in general resolutions about projects. In the governance, to people who aren't very technical programmers who can, commit to the main repo.
Well, I know that OpenStack's a really good example of that. I'm not actually involved in any of the bigger monolith things that actually require packaging and entire committees to try to do the thing, because most of the projects I'm involved with, the only people that can drive the direction are the people involved in the GitHub organization itself that actually have the rights to be able to do that stuff. So, I mean, the fact that Debian has monolithic issues extends past just the voting rights system. I mean, there's this whole monolithic packaging issue as well, but, sorry, I really don't know. I mean, I've only been doing open sourcey stuff for like, gosh, not even 2 years now, so I haven't touched on all these kind of things. I'm just like, hey, here's the thing, you should do the thing, and it's all GitHub and it's all new and shiny, so I'm sorry I don't have the answer. Hi.
Hi.
You're welcome.
Thank you for talking. One thing I read about fairly recently was the concept of group currencies, and I just wonder whether there's a potential. The idea is that just like countries, nations can have currencies, and that has some sort of imputed value. You could have organisations, groups, projects with their own currency and even a basic income that goes to core contributors, and that currency can be a method, among other things, to vote towards what's prioritised for the project and so on, and a way potentially of rewarding people, even if they're not coming on board as a core contributor, is that you can give them some currency that you have earned as a core contributor, and then they can use that as a surrogate for voting new features or otherwise influencing the direction of that entity, whether it's a GitHub entity or it's a community group or a meetup.
Okay, that's a really interesting idea. Based on the currency thing though, I think I briefly touched on the fact that I've been paid to help with Docker because I also got a bad documentation thing in Docker committed upstream, something to do with new lines in a README, but they actually gave me money for that. They gave me 1.29 prime X coins of whatever cryptocurrency it was, and at the time, that converted to 4 US cents. But yeah, that actual currency tokens, like I can make one vote for a thing, that's actually a really interesting concept. Thank you.
So on the projects that are kind of more inclusive, Ubuntu's got a quite interesting governance structure. So they aggressively recognise non-code contributions. But they've split out their voting, so they have voting on technical things requires a technical contribution, voting on the larger social non-code specific things. It's not just social, that's why I corrected myself. You have to contribute to Ubuntu, and they have a committee structure where they assess contributions in a fairly holistic fashion. I spent some years involved in that process.
Okay.
At the top of it, it's not democratic, but it's still, I think, quite valuable. And they've grown a very large community doing that.
Yeah. Democracy in my open source? I mean, gosh. But I mean, OpenStack has a similar thing, because if I'm not mistaken, you are one of the Nova main people that was like a vote type thing?
Oh, gosh, no. Nova predates me. I'm on the technical committee at OpenStack, so I'm part of the governance structure there.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that I got an email as part of ATC that involved a little drop-down tick box that may have had your name on it at one point.
Thank you for voting.
You should do more OpenStack things. How many more minutes do I have until I have to get off stage? Have we hit the hashtag limit yet?
So we've gotten to 10 hashtags, but only like 4 are like genuine, like calling out other people for being awesome. So, 3 minutes, guys, 3 minutes or she's not leaving.
It's okay, there's like lightning talks and stuff, and I'm sure that if this was like KiwiCon, there'd be flamethrowers to get me off stage.
So we've got our being nice to you. Here's a PyCon mug. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for such an amazing speech. I think you're right about building community. Guys, make sure you use the hashtag. Make sure you use the PyConAU hashtag as well. And look out for lightning talks. Let's give it up one more time for her.